village. Franco.
She said she can see everybody, but we can't see her. So I don't know.
She must be maybe, I don't see her in person.
No. She's really weird. And I resent her the invitation.
Is this her phone number, 992-907?
Oh, no, that's,
Oh.
visual. She's 994.
Mary Ann's on screen, she just has her video turned off.
We're just waiting. So, every Wednesday. There, I just sent you an invite.
Marta, are you able to hear us now?
I hear everybody, and I see everybody.
Okay,
Do you hear me?
I hear you.
I hear Marta.
Hi, but I cannot see anybody. I mean, I see everybody and nobody can see me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Nobody can see me either.
I think everybody's present.
Okay, well, I'm here. And I try my computer, my tablet, and my phone.
Okay. Yeah, send me a screenshot of it and maybe I can for next time.
Well, good evening, everyone. Why don't we go ahead and get the meeting started? If everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get started, there's just a little housekeeping here that I want to do, and it's just a notice that says this meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. If you are watching the live stream at http://bit.ly/2R20DM4, and wish to make either a general public comment or to comment on the specific agenda item as it is being heard, please submit your comments to the city clerk at iwerby@cicloverdale.ca.us. I mean, we have a roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Bagby,
Present.
Councilmember Brigham,
Here.
Councilmember Cruz,
Here.
Vice Mayor Turner,
Here.
and Mayor Walter.
Here. Emma, Ashton, thank you for coming this evening. We get you both. So, but thank you for coming. Conflict of interest? Anyone declaring a conflict of interest on anything? Oh, now we can see Marta.
Yes, on the consent calendar, I cannot participate in the cannabis issue.
Okay, so that will be item number 8.
That is correct.
Okay. Agenda review. Are there any revisions to the agenda? I would like to move a item around a little bit, and it's the status update on current emergency. And I'd like to move that right in front of the subcommittee reports. I think we'll have a duplicative effort. This way David could address maybe some of the questions that we would have as a subcommittee. So I'm going to go ahead and move that. Okay. And with that being said, I think we could move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the city council on items that are not on tonight's agenda may do so. Using the proper protocol, please step up to the microphone, state your name for the records, and share with us what you have. You have 3 minutes, and please remember that we can't respond to you because it's not an agendized item. We can just hear your input. So please step up to the microphone.
I'm going to improvise here. Good evening, council members and Cloverdale community. My name is Christina Lepa Duarte. I am a parent and city advocate, community advocate. And I'm here today because, first of all, my son is a senior, a 2020 senior, and I'm here representing the senior class, graduates, parents, families, friends, and community. There has been a lot of support in regards to honoring our seniors and commemorating them in a form of picture banners. I know that there's some talks about purchasing them and having them hung up similar to our hometown heroes banners. I have been in contact with Public Works, Mark Rincon, and he did fill me in a bit about what's needed on behalf of the city. And there is also additional expenses. I've also been in contact with other council members and administrators as well on this. So my main mission, and the community of Cloverdale's main mission, is to honor our seniors in some way. So I have also been in contact with Katie Young from the Citrus Fair. And we've talked about possibly, if it's not feasible to hang them up in town, if we can hang them up on the fences along the Citrus Fair, being that there's roughly about 90 graduates in total. She's supportive, very much on board. However, we definitely wanted to address that there is a sign ordinance placed in the city, and we wanted to see if, once again, if it's not feasible to hang up the banners in town on the poles, if that city ordinance for signs can be waived temporarily for this. So I definitely want to make sure that I bring that up to the city council and to our city managers to get the proper approval and the support that's needed for this. So as far as the costs for the banners, we would be raising money. We have some generous pledges from our community members, and I will also be reaching out to families for our seniors. So necessarily, I'm not here asking for the city to pay for those banners. The main thing that I would really like in the community is to have the support from the city to make this happen in some way or another. And so, again, that's the reason why I'm here. I believe it's my understanding that Mark Rincon is going to speak to the council and give you guys an update as to what is needed on his behalf. So once again, that's the reason why I'm here. Is there any questions or concerns that you guys may have?
Well, thank you. I'll speak on behalf of the council right now. And I believe my mic is on, so everybody should be able to hear me. You know, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think the city is definitely here to support you. We're not going to discuss the details of it this evening. But what I do suggest you do, and I've spoken with with Jeremy Decker today on a different matter. And we did touch base on this because Angela Cordova mentioned that she was going to be coming forward. And I told Mark what I'd prefer to do is to send you to the school board. And once you get their permission to release pictures of the graduates and get a list of who the graduates are, then come to the city and we'll work with you on displaying them. But for the city just to jump in and get ahead of the school district, we don't even know who the graduating class is. So I think that's where you should start off.
Mr. Mayor?
Council members.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
When we're not supposed to be responding to this issue.
I know that.
Councilmember Cruz, if you just give me 1 second.
Okay.
But why don't we go ahead and just, Marta, seeing how you're the chair of the school subcommittee, why don't you go ahead and share with us?
Well, I would like for the students who are the liaisons and who are graduating seniors to speak on their own behalf.
Well, Marta, I'm not going to get into.
Something that we do later?
I'm not going to get into a debate with you now, but I don't know if we have the right to release the names of students in the high school.
No, I'm not saying that, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, what I'm saying is we have 2 student liaisons who are graduating seniors. And I feel that at some point during this meeting, they need to have the opportunity to speak on this issue.
Oh, thank you.
Not now, at some other point.
No, I think, I don't think Jose would mind if we let them speak now. So, Emma, would you like to start, please?
Sure, yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Emma, would you like to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this obviously been a very strange and difficult time for our community. Oh goodness. For those of us graduating this year, there is a concern that we won't have the chance to have a proper send-off or a chance to say goodbye. So as of right now, the route we're taking is to have every student submit a 30-second video clip of them receiving their diploma from a family member and recounting on some of their greatest memories from high school. All of these videos would then be combined and shared with us, our families, and the community. But also there's the concern that there won't be an actual ceremony. So beyond the montage, most students are open to having the ceremony later in the year, such as August or even late November. Obviously, we can't make too many plans right now as circumstances are always changing, but we are planning to have an actual graduation at some point. And there was suggested to have a parade or a drive-in graduation. However, the concern is with both of these ideas that they would attract crowds and defeat the purpose of social distancing. Another idea that many people and many seniors are really supportive of is to have a Friday Night Live setting in honor of the graduating class, once we can resume public gatherings, that is. This would involve the help of most of the businesses in town and a great way to kick off the reopening of Cloverdale whenever that happens. And so obviously much of this could change in the coming weeks since nothing is set in stone, but overall there is like a general want to celebrate as a community. The banner idea, I think it's really great. We just need to make sure that if we did that, every student would have a banner and that one wouldn't be like directly on the boulevard and then another is like in the corner somewhere, like everyone needs equal opportunity. And I think that's our main concern.
Thank you, Emma. Ash,
Please.
would you like to add something?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right. So Emma already addressed the main concern. The general consensus, I was in a Zoom with some other students of mine for a class earlier, and the general consensus, I think, is that they're willing to wait and maybe play this out. Of course, there's the concern then that everyone's off to college then and no one really, a lot of kids don't care about it anymore, but I think we might be able to put something together before that with that with that drive-through idea and everything. And another idea that I have, I know Martha thought of it right before the meeting, but with the Cloverdale Reveille, if we want to get like a student profile of, I recognize we might not get to every single student in the time frame that we have, but I thought a nice idea might be something involving the Cloverdale Reveille. Like, I don't want to say we pick out students or anything because we want everyone to have a fair chance, but some way to involve the students and maybe get some like student profiles featured on the Reveille or something along that line.
Thank you, Ashton. Well, like I said earlier, I suggest you get in touch with the school and make sure that you have permission from the school board, and then come back to the city council, the subcommittee, or just our city manager, and we can have a meeting and just outline what you have in mind.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you. And Emma and Ashton, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what Councilmember Cruz was saying, but I thank you for jumping in and saying a few words on that. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on items that are not on the agenda this evening?
Hello, Council. My name is Mark DeMaio. I bought a home on West Brookside about a month and a half ago. After buying the home, I realized my truck would not fit in the driveway. I'm a general contractor by trade, so I require a big truck to get my work done. I decided to extend the driveway within my property. 2 weeks into work, I received a red tag from Mark Rinkin. After calling him, I was made aware that the city believes this to be a lighting and landscape district, and that I do not own this land and I cannot landscape it the way I please. This information was not disclosed in the process of buying the home. There should have been an addendum to my paperwork with a plot plan, or at least an engineer's report with some type of topical drawing where the right of way that the city has is. My neighbors on the same private road have also never heard of the L&L or have it on their paperwork. I am prepared to share this paperwork with the council via email. It is the city's job to approve the plot maps. Less landscaping equals less water, less maintenance, and less money. I am looking forward to getting this resolved quickly. I paid $500,000 for every square inch on that map. No HOA, no LOL, no L&L, and no extra taxes for landscaping. Thank you, Council.
Mark, thank you very much. Before you leave, I'm going to ask the city clerk to give you a business card of our city manager, and you can direct all of your emails to him directly. And he in turn will share it with our public works director and our assistant city manager, and I'm sure somebody will be back to you as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, you know what we're in the middle of right now, but we'll try and expedite it as quickly as we can.
Mayor, if I can, Mr. Dale has contacted me and I've responded to his email, so I think we got each of the contact information.
Okay. Okay.
And I shared with Mr. Mayo that it would require further research.
Can't hear you.
David, take yourself off mute, please.
Okay, you can start over.
Thank you, Councilmember Wagner. I was just sharing with the mayor that Mr. DeMaio and I have exchanged emails. So I think you have my email again, David Kelly. And I shared with Mr. DeMaio that it would require further investigation. The area in question is an area that we've since 2003 maintained in the landscape and lighting district. But in terms of the actual physical boundaries of the area that's subject to the LNL, that would need further research, and that's something that we'll need further evaluation. So that we're working on that, and we'll certainly follow up, and if needed, we'll refer to appropriate subcommittees for further discussion because it may involve policy issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else wishing to address the City Council on items that are not on this evening's agenda? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section and bring it back for proclamations. And we have one that's National Public Safety Telecommunicators Day. Week, sorry. David, would you like to read that with us?
Mayor, happy to read the proclamation in recognition of our important dispatch team in our Cloverdale Police Department. The item is City Council Proclamation declaring April 12th through April 18th, 2020 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Cloverdale Emergency Communication Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the City of Cloverdale have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of the job in the past year. Now, therefore, be resolved that you, Mayor Gus Walter of the City of Cloverdale, declare the week of April 12th, 18th, 2020 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Cloverdale, and further extend our appreciation to our dispatchers, Caitlin Jensen, Tammy Lindley, Michael Newhall, Carolyn Peterson, Lori Smith, Darlene Stratton, and Police Technical Services Manager Linda Webb, whose diligence and professionalism keep our city safe and our citizens safe. Presented this day, April 22nd.
Thank you, David. Chief, please make sure you let the dispatchers know that the City Council did read their proclamation, and we thank them for their job. I noticed that we have a banner hanging out in front of the police station, which is really nice. So just make sure you convey our gratitude to them for all the hard work they do.
I definitely will, Mayor, and I'll actually give them a copy of this to hang in the dispatch center as well.
Thank you. And then there's one more, which is Municipal Clerks Week. And David, do you want to share some of that with us?
Absolutely. The second proclamation is the City Council Proclamation declaring May 3rd through May 9th, 2020 as Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world and serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk is the earliest established public service and provides the professional link between citizens, local governing bodies, and other government agencies. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that you, Mayor Des Walter of the City of Cloverdale, declare the week of May 3rd to 9th, 2020 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend our appreciation to our municipal clerk, Irene Camacho Werby, her staff at Sudol, and to all municipal clerks for their vital service they perform and the exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. So ordered today, April 22nd.
Thank you, David. And, you know, I'm going to give the council members just the chance to share with you what a breath of fresh air you've been coming to the city. I know as a council member, I really appreciate all the hard work you do in taking care of me, and I'm sure you take care of all the council members, making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So, council members, would you like to share anything with Irene?
Sure. Thank you. And
your mic.
Oh, let's see here. I'll do this out.
Okay. Irene, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you.
A little over a year now, maybe a little under since.
London.
Yeah, and it's been fantastic, and I really enjoy the sense of humor that you bring to the job, and the collaboration, and your organizational skills, I should say, are huge for someone like me who is just hanging on by a thread, and to help make sure the forms are done and everything, and just doing it with a smile and such a warm personality makes working with you an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Councilmember Bagby.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Irene, to say you really made huge changes in the organization. And now that we're being faced with COVID-19, you're going where no clerk has gone before. We just really appreciate all your hard work and your professionalism, and making us look good, and keeping all the plates in the air. You've just done an amazing job, and we don't thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else, council members?
Yeah, I would like to say something. That Irene has been one of the easiest people to deal with, and I have to say she has not only a lovely personality and a kind of a kitsch for the job, but also, also a lovely family. I had the opportunity to meet her kids, and God, Irene, you did a great job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, seeing
Marta
no one
here.
Councilmember Cruz?
Yes. Irene, thank you so much. You really stepped up to the plate. And we had a very smooth transition. And I really appreciate all that you're doing for us and how you remind us to be on time for everything. Thank you, and I hope that we can continue to work with you for a long time.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar. And Marianne, I'm going to remember here in a second that you're going to recuse yourself from item number 8. But let me just say that all items on the consent calendar are approved together with one action unless a member of the public, staff, or council members would like an item pulled for discussion. Is there any items that we should be pulling?
I'm not sure I need to pull the item. I just had a question about item number 6, and Kevin might be able to answer it very quickly.
No, I think we have to pull it if there's discussion on it. So why don't we go ahead and pull item number 6 and item number 8.
It's just a general question about the current deadline on item 6.
Well, can we get an approval on items number 4, number 5, number 7, and number 9? Would somebody like to approve that?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Turner,
Aye.
and Mayor Walter.
Aye. Okay, let's go ahead and pull item number 7. And Councilmember Bagby, you had a question on that? I'm sorry, item number 6.
Item 6, yeah, I just had a question about whether or not we anticipate the September 2022 being extended by the state.
Councilmember Bagby, is that in reference to the deadline for the housing element?
Yeah, and that's on page 23.
I've
Your mic.
Turn your mic on, David. Unmute yourself.
My understanding is that is a discussion point. I haven't seen specific bill or legislation that provides for an extension, but I do believe that is something that is being actively discussed, but I don't know that anything's been provided officially from Housing and Community Development, which is the authority that we report to with respect to our housing element.
Right, that just might be something that we might want to get one of our legislators on if they aren't already.
Yeah, I concur with David. I haven't heard anything about that, but we can look into it, but I have not heard that happening.
I'll check in on, I think I can check in on Friday with Nancy from the league and see if there, and then I've got my executive board meeting tomorrow. That's kind of why I wanted to have an answer so we can bring it up as a pending issue if necessary. And if I get any information, I'll pass it back to you guys. Thank you.
That'd be good.
All right.
Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. Could I have a motion to approve item number 6 on the consent calendar, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please, Irene.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Turner,
Aye.
and Mayor Walter.
Aye. Okay, the next item, if I could have a recommendation for approval on item number 8.
Motion to approve consent item number 8.
Jason.
I didn't hear what was.
We need a second.
I will second.
Can we have a roll call, please, Irene?
Vice Mayor Turner,
Yes.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
and Mayor Walter.
I was under the impression that Councilmember Brigham had to
Oh, I'm
recuse
sorry.
herself.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that's with the recusal.
Okay. All right. Next time we're going to have you leave the room. You're going to have to shut off the audio and come back on later. So let the records reflect that the item number 8 was approved by the council and that Councilmember Brigham recused herself from that item.
I recuse.
Okay. Let's move on to communications. Is there any communications that we need to know of? David, Irene?
No specific communications, Mayor, for the packet.
Okay. There's no public hearing and there's also no new business. Subcommittee items. Before we get into that, I'd like to jump to the status update on current emergency. And David, I think that's your item. And there should be a handout, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Correct, Mayor and council members. Thank you. This item is an update by city staff on the state of preparedness and emergency response in regards to the ongoing COVID-19 emergency. And this is our second report to council, our first being at the first meeting after the emergency, which was April 8th. And what we'd like to do is really touch on updates that are new since that original report, and kind of key information. I'll provide an overview of both kind of some of the legislation happenings with respect to the federal, state, and county government, and then turn it over to staff who have been working diligently through this emergency to provide a specific departmental update for the council and the community. I want to start by saying that there's been a lot of discussion at the federal level on a update to the CARES Act, which we first reported on April 8th. There is concern that the legislation did not include provisions for local cities. So there's been an ongoing discussion about the need for additional legislation to provide financial support to counties and cities. And that's something that's been in negotiation. In addition, because of the popularity of the economic relief that was provided for in the CARES Act, it was quickly met its appropriation that was originally granted under the original bill. So just on just yesterday, the Senate did approve an interim package to provide an additional $484 billion worth of funding to small businesses and hospitals. Kind of outline of the deal includes $350 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, another $30 billion set aside for small banks and credit unions, $30 billion set aside for community development finance institutions, and some of that's to fund some of the SBA Small Business Administration programs that were quickly, exceeded, the request exceeded the federal appropriations. So the Senate did act pretty quickly to update the appropriations, and that is expected to go before the House tomorrow. In addition to that funding, there's additional about $100 billion that's dedicated specifically to public health, which would include $75 billion for reimbursement to hospitals and healthcare providers, and another $25 billion for COVID-19 testing, and that's to expand testing throughout the United States. So those are kind of key updates in federal legislation relative to the CARES Act. But the other legislation which is proposed is legislation to provide up to $250 billion for direct support to states and cities. And that is still being negotiated by the House and Senate. I did want to report that on Friday of last week, Sonoma County City Managers did collaborate on a letter to both the leadership in the House and Senate in support of federal support for economic relief to small, what we call non-entitlement cities. And non-entitlement cities are cities that are under 50,000. So we've been really active, and I know Councilmember Bagby through the league has been very active in trying to secure that additional funding from the feds to small municipalities like ourselves, who are really bearing the brunt of the response to the COVID-19 emergency, and are spending a lot of our own resources to try and address this emergency. So it's a way to try to get those funds directly to us to help us offset not only our direct expenses, but also to help backfill some of the losses that we're experiencing, certainly in terms of sales tax revenue and other important revenue sources. So that's kind of an update on the federal level. On the state level, of course, there's been a tremendous amount of activity. A couple of things I'd just like to touch on in terms of updates. I'll get my camera back on here just one second. On April 14th, Governor Newsom did release a detailed plan for incrementally lifting, coronavirus-related restrictions. I think the governor recognizes that, it's increasingly challenging, particularly for our residents and our business community, as this shelter-in-place continues. And there's a lot of interest in how do we lift this the shelter in place order that has been issued on a statewide basis. And there's been a framework that's been developed. Governor Newsom's calling it the West Coast Framework. It's kind of three kind of key points that is made within that framework, and really it's a focus on health, and that our residents' health comes first, and that's the key in terms of lifting any kind of shelter-in-place order that's currently in effect. And that ultimately health outcomes will derive the decision making around lifting the shelter in place. The governor did identify 6 key indicators that would be necessary to evaluate as part of lifting the shelter in place. And real quickly, I'll cover those. First is the ability to monitor and protect our communities through testing, contact tracing, isolating, and supporting those who are positive or exposed. We've seen some of that happen locally with new public health orders issued just last week requiring anybody who is COVID-19 positive to require to be in isolation, and those who are in immediate contact with them to also be in quarantine. And that's achieved either through known contact or through contact tracing that's now being used through the County Department of Public Health. The second indicator is the ability to prevent infection people who are at risk for more severe COVID-19. One of the mechanisms there is to be able to provide appropriate medical facilities for them, and also focus on creating therapeutics, which might mean medicines and so forth that will help alleviate the impact of COVID-19. The third indicator is the ability of our hospitals and healthcare systems to handle surges. And we've seen that one of the tools that's been used is development of alternative care sites. That's recently been established here in Sonoma County. Fourth is the ability to develop therapeutics to meet the demand. And that's, again, getting back to development of a vaccine. That's probably a more longer term measure. This is the ability for businesses, schools, and childcare facilities to support physical distancing, and the ability to determine when to reinstitute certain measures, such as stay-at-home orders if necessary. So that was kind of a key framework that the governor outlined for lifting the shelter in place, and I know it's going to help really guide whether the governor, when they decide to consider lifting the shelter in place. In terms of kind of the case data, as of really today, there's about 192 cumulative cases in Sonoma County. Of those, about 100 are active, and 87 are recovered. There have been, unfortunately, two deaths within Sonoma County, but we're now up to about 4,700 tests that have been conducted, and I know there's a lot of interest in really ramping that up and starting a kind of a public drive-up testing center possibly in Santa Rosa. So those are kind of active things that are happening at the county level. In terms of the city of Cloverdale, all our staff have really been focusing on conducting essential activities and following the shelter in place. The city manager's office, we've participating very regularly in operational area calls with the emergency operations center, and what's called the joint department operational center, which took effect in April 6th. And what that means is that the County Department of Health is really the lead agency with respect to this emergency. And the Emergency Operations Center now is really just its role is to provide logistical support. So the lead in terms of this emergency, because it is a pandemic, is the County Department of Public Health in coordination with the state of California. And we coordinate closely in tracking the messaging that comes from the county health department and evaluate what the impacts are to our city. but we do continue to coordinate and participate with various EOC task force. And I know Kevin's going to touch on a little bit of that in his presentation, which includes, the homeless task force, trying to ensure that the homeless community is addressed. But also in particular, and I know this is in conjunction with our council, is the food resource task force. I had the opportunity to participate, I know with the mayor on Friday last week with a food distribution, the Sonoma family meal at the senior center, or 50 oven ready meals that were distributed almost within about 40 minutes. And then there was also a coordinated food drive with the Redwood Empire Food Bank. Relatively small events, but it's amazing the amount of logistics that are required just to kind of pull those off and make those happen. And I know Councilmember Cruz has been actively working and coordinating this week as well with the Redwood Empire Food Bank to support additional food distribution in the city of Cloverdale, because we recognize that food security is growing and increasing, as a result of this emergency, and as folks are out of work, that it's increasingly becoming challenging to afford the kind of the necessary food supplies for proper nutrition. So that's an ongoing effort. It takes a lot of time, but it's a vital service that the city is working on establishing here in the city to address the needs of our residents. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Ferguson to provide an update from a public safety perspective. And I really want to acknowledge the chief and our police department. They really haven't missed a beat during this emergency. They're working their regular shifts. They're very active in patrols, and obviously they have a lot of concern for their own safety and health and family. And we're making sure that they follow those appropriate protocols. But we recognize it is stressful, but they continue to do their job and they do it well. So with that, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. I certainly echo everything you just said about the staff at the police department. I couldn't be more proud of them. Thank you, Mayor, council members. Like David, I continue to participate in the area op call for the Emergency Operations Center, as well as 3 times a week, the Sonoma County Chiefs Association area op calls, where, as I mentioned before, we get a lot of detailed information and guide us on protocols on how to respond during this emergency. We continue to purchase PPE equipment as much as we can. I really have to applaud Lieutenant Parker. He's on it every day trying to get us masks and sanitizer and glove equipment. And we submitted a request to the county EOC, and just today received the result of that request, more PPE masks and hand sanitizer. So we're really thrilled with that. We use a lot of this as we go on every day. We've provided 2 additional Nixle communications regarding general health and safety on the COVID-19, and we will continue to do that as we get updated information with, if anything were to change, we'll put that out on Nixle. One of the important things I did during this, since the last meeting, was participate in a PG&E webinar regarding public safety power shutoffs. These are still set to take place given the situation that we have, and it's unfortunate, but these are still going to be a part of what we're going to have to deal with in the foreseeable future. Some of the things PG&E is doing that I'm happy to report is they've taken a lot of measures to lessen the impacts of PSPS, and Cloverdale may very well see some of these fewer impacts. Part of that comes from the addition of sectionalizing devices that limit the size of the outage. And this would include for Cloverdale, there were several of those devices that I could see on the map that may very well benefit us and take parts of the city out of that scope that would be affected. So if that goes through as it's projected, that would be very beneficial for us. Cloverdale is also one of 5 targeted cities for a hard community resource center. If you recall last year, they put up basically a tent at the Citrus Fair as a CRC. I think the goal here, and we're on the map for this, is a hard building such as the library. And part of that CRC would be a lot more upgrades that would help benefit our community. more so than just power, water. We're talking air, heat, and other things that would certainly be beneficial for us. Cloverdale is also one of 6 possible sites that PG&E has identified for possible temporary microgrid that can utilize backup generation sources to keep portions of the community energized. This would be very beneficial for us if this were to go through as well. So I was very happy to see that Cloverdale is on the map for some of this, and we're very hopeful that it goes through, particularly during what we're dealing with. This could be very difficult as we move forward. I'll move it now to some of the things both Lieutenant Parker and I have been working on regularly, and that is trying to assist our community and landscapers in particular with the interpretation of the order. And it's been a real challenge, but I think we've been successful in trying to work with them and come up with a compromise that benefits everybody at hand and still allows certain things to happen. And we've also reached out to County Council to seek advice when we were certainly unsure. And that's a benefit afforded to us that we've been able to use with our community in helping make those compromises. As I reported last time, I want to kind of give you some statistics on COVID-19 responses for the department. And now we're looking from April 5th to the 20th. I can tell you that we've had 73 different incidents or calls for service. A majority of these ended up being warnings and advisements. It's still our goal to enforce at the lowest level. However, we have issued 4 notices. 3 of those were relative to businesses, and 1 was regarding a person. And 22 of those calls, those incidents happened at the plaza. So those were likely people not socializing appropriately and gathering in the plaza. We've also been on 7 different incidents in the open space and 5 in the river park. And I want to add, it's not on the report here, that we continue to utilize the UTV up in those areas, as well as the drone has been up. And both of those have been very beneficial for us. End of report.
Okay, well, I'll go next here. For Public Works, I have all staff reporting to duty. Everyone's on full duty right now, just providing essential services. As you can see from my report, it's busy season for us. Engineering is fully occupied, likewise with Park and Rec. The water and wastewater operation, I just want to point out that the operators are avoiding being together in the operations office simply because that's our weak link. We just have 2 operators per plant, and so if one of them is ill, it puts a burden on one additional person. So I just wanted to point that out to you. And then again, Public Works, most staff is working in the field. They're never in the office together except for in the morning when they check their email. And they have the protocols for keeping distance, wearing PPEs, and also wiping down surfaces. That ends my report.
Hi, I guess I'm up next. This is Kevin. Just to piggyback on what David said, I am participating in a number of weekly phone calls. They're lessening the frequency, but they're still a couple of times a week. One of the more interesting ones is the homeless discussion, the homeless EOC. What it's coming down to is that they've secured rooms at Sonoma State for both COVID positive as well as at-risk homeless folks. The way that someone would get referred to the Sonoma State facility is through Reach for Home. So Reach for Home has identified 15 individuals in Healdsburg and Cloverdale who would qualify. These are folks over 60 or with other medical conditions. They have the ability to transport them down to Sonoma State. It's not open yet. It'll be open this week, and they can stay there for an undetermined duration, a month or 2 at least. There are some stipulations with that. It's not a free in and out. It's very organized, and they would be allowed to do necessary, trips to the store, things like that. But that is available. And then, if anyone knows any homeless person who they think meets that qualification, they can contact me, or they can contact Reach for Home directly. So that's one thing that's finally coming to fruition. I wanted to say that I've been working with Mark Harris, our building inspector, and based on what other jurisdictions are doing, we are probably going to roll out a wider building permit service. We've talked about having a bin at City Hall where someone can drop building plans in there. They can make an arrangement with Mark to meet by appointment only. Those bins would then be quarantined for 5 days. And after 5 days, he would then begin the process of working on those building permits. This is the same way that Sonoma County is doing it currently. So I'll come out, once we get all the details, I will put together a sort of a press release and send that out so people can, there hasn't been lots of people asking for building permits, but there has been a few. So we kind of want to get those moving along. We've been doing the cannabis, and I just want to say, that came out wrong, sorry. We're continuing our day-to-day planning operations. Raphael is all set up at home. He's doing processing several planning applications. Baumgartner's shaping up to be ready to go to Planning Commission pretty soon. 6 acres in South Cloverdale and special projects as well. That concludes my report.
Okay, I guess I'm up. Mine's pretty short and sweet. Finance staff is continuing to work from home when they can. When the ones that can't are alternating their time in the office. The rest of the staff is doing virtual budget meetings, which is quite a task. But we completed the L&L budgets. We sent those off to Coastland, and you should see those at the next meeting. We're still working on the water software, the water reading software, so that we can hopefully not be doing paper and pencil anymore. Staff is attending as many webinars as possible. It's a little overwhelming at times. There's so many, they're back to back. And preparing for the REMIF board meeting. I think that's all that I have for tonight.
I'm next. Our priority has been really just continuing to ensure that we meet all the requirements.
If that's Irene, you need to unmute yourself.
I can't hear.
I couldn't see myself. Okay, so my priority right now is just to ensure that we continue meeting the Brown Act requirements for city council meetings and the various subcommittees that we're holding. As you know, the subcommittee meetings as of April have all been held 100% via Zoom. So with this capability, we have also been able to record the meetings, and they are now posted online after the next day following the meeting. Again, we continue to participate and stay informed via webinars and weekly city clerks meetings, and just trying to keep abreast of all the information. And again, I continue to check in with my staff. She has been great. She's mostly been working remotely. I know we've seen her in the office a couple times, so a big thank you to her. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that, you know, with all this craziness that is going on, I told my husband that, you know, with everything going on, I really did make a good choice coming here. Staff has, you know, continued to be very helpful. Definitely have a great team. Council, thank you for your patience and support. And again, I'm very happy to be here, and I made a great decision. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Irene, for that report. Now I'm going to bring it back to the City Council for questions on the department head's report. And Jason, I think you have one that you'd like to ask.
Yeah, thank you. I had a question for Jason, which is probably more of just a comment and a rant. ultimately have a question for Kevin as well, and then a question for Susie. Jason, regarding PG&E and the, I don't know, I guess little gifts that they want to give us amidst the chaos that they've caused us, I still find myself a tad frustrated regarding the whole thing. And I know that these times with PG&E and shutting our power off have been announced and they're here to stay, but doesn't mean I have to be any less mad about it. And I just want to kind of get an idea from you of really kind of the sense of how you feel that's going to progress, and whether Cloverdale is actually going to get these things that you spoke about or not.
So the best way I think I can answer this is I'm giving you keys, or definitely that, and I'd be wrong if I did. I was very hopeful when I saw the maps that outline the sectionalizing, which is very beneficial. Very hopeful that we could get a hard CRC, which will be very beneficial to our community. I think one of my biggest plan for when these two things meet in the intersection, that being the shelter in place and a PSPS. What happens there? I didn't see a plan laid out. I don't know that they have one, but I assume that they're working on that regularly so that we can figure that out. Are these happening? Yes. Are they going to continue to happen in the long term? Absolutely. So it's in our best interest to try to be as prepared as we can be. I hope that answers what your question was.
On the
if I could add something too.
Cross at one point or another, and thank you for that. I have a question for Kevin.
Mark would like to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Forgive me.
Yeah, just long term, you know, we need to start looking at microgrids and what are the possibilities for the city of Cloverdale in terms of preparing ourselves and being somewhat energy independent from the main PG&E distribution grid. And those are long-term studies that need to come out of engineering and of course, funded through from the city. So this is probably not the opportune time in terms of a budget crunch that we're going to be going through, but maybe in a future budget, we can address that.
Melanie, you'd like to?
Can I just make one comment on that?
Absolutely.
Chief?
May I make a comment on Mark's?
Yes.
I just want to say that I agree 100% with Mark, because the long-term scope of this 30 years out is likely going to be 1 to 3 of these every single year. So we're going to be in the long term for this. So I think Mark is right on with the idea of the independence.
Councilmember Bagby?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I just heard through the grapevine, and I'm going to confirm it with the Air Board and get back to you. I understand that as far as the natural gas powered generators that PG&E was considering putting at each of the substations, like, you know, Windsor, Fulton, Cloverdale, Fort Bragg, not Fort Bragg, but Fort Bragg, because they don't have natural gas, but in the places that have been really hard hit by PSPS. What I understand is right around the time that we were all going into the stay-at-home order, they had only pulled a permit with the Air Board for the city of Windsor's substation, and Cloverdale was not on their list for this year. So a separate issue from that would be their ability to better segment the larger grid so that the city stays on, and maybe the more wildland urban interface areas are the ones that get turned off. But then, you know, Cloverdale proper would at least, you know, retain power. So that's good news. But I also know from the legislative meetings that all of the assembly members, all of our state senator, have all mentioned that in Sacramento, they have been, and also the supervisors on a lot of their talks have been talking about the fact that they know that, fire season is right around the corner. And they are talking about this very serious in Sacramento. So what if we are still in a stay-at-home order and there is a PSPS or an evacuation order? So I know that it's not being ignored. It's not being not thought of. It's something that's being urgently addressed at the state level. So we're hopefully we'll get some more information on that soon, but I just don't think that they're ready to make any announcement yet. But yeah, as of this year, I don't think that Cloverdale substation is on the list for getting natural gas backup generation. With that said too, the other piece of information that's become more pertinent from Sonoma Clean Power is that they are working with Terra Verde out of Nevada, which we've actually met with. Was before the fires last year, and it kind of got lost in the mix as far as looking at where city buildings could become more energy independent. And so now that they're, Sonoma Clean Power has contracted them to work with all the municipalities, hopefully that will get pushed to the forefront when we start getting back on track on energy independence. But I think that, yeah, going forward for us, it's just vitally important that we move in that direction for public safety. It's also an economic issue. If we are not sending money out of Cloverdale for power generation, that's money that's going to be staying in our local economy. As far as the economic recovery from COVID-19, that's going to be more important than ever. And that's all I've got to report on that. And I'll get some more information from the league on tomorrow at their meeting and try to ask some more questions and get some more information on the ledge meeting on Friday.
Thank you, Member Bagby. Jason, you had a couple more questions?
Yeah, just two more, thank you. Kevin, on the permitting where you had talked about there's an opportunity to expand the scope beyond what was described as, I think, emergency up until this point. Is that working in concert with what's allowed in terms of construction? For example, I received an inquiry about a building permit to finish out a pool, and with warm weather coming, I don't know, maybe that's something that could be considered essential or something of that nature. But is people who wanted to come in and do pool construction, would they even be permitted to do so, and things of that nature? So I just wanted to get a little bit more of an idea of what you think that looks like.
Yeah, well, what we've talked about, and we haven't fully formed it yet, but would be where someone can come in and get a building permit that doesn't fit the emergency category that we described earlier. Again, they'd have to understand that this is going to be, we're going to put like a box or a crate in City Hall. They're going to put it in there with a deposit check. Mark, our building inspector, will then pick it up and put it, aside for 5 days before touching it. But the way the county is operating, and we don't have to necessarily do what the county's doing, but they are a big office for building. They're issuing permits for just about everything in using this method. Okay. So that's I'm considering it. I need to speak to David about it a little bit more and talk to Mark Harris, our building official, and see what makes sense for us. Honestly, we're not issuing a ton of permits anyway, so it probably isn't that big a deal. As I said, I've gotten a few emails of people anxious to start demolition, like demoing the inside of their house for a house remodel, things like that. So it would be nice if, they could proceed and get going. So there'll be more details in the next few days, but I personally think it's a good idea. I don't want Mark Harris to do anything that he's, not comfortable with. And I've said that to him many times. He really brought this idea to me and said, this is the way the county's doing it. And so it would be open for people to get building permits of any type.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have one more?
One last one. Thank you for entertaining my questions here, everybody. Susie, you had a bullet point in your report regarding working with management partners to update the forecasting model that was previously presented to council. I'm very interested in what those new projections look like and kind of where they are on that. Do you have enough information to maybe elaborate a little bit more, or is it maybe something I could get in an email? That was something that really jumped out as interesting me a lot.
Sure. So as you know, the the model that was presented had 19 budget, fiscal year 18-19 budget, and then it had all of the rest. And I want to update that with 19 actual and then put in the 19-20 budget so that we can then see where that goes. It looks like the first that management partners will be able to work with me to make sure that doing it right is next Thursday. So I should have more information at the next meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those are my questions.
Council members, any other questions of senior staff?
Gus, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I apologize to the student liaisons for not asking for their report. So Emma, would you like to get us started on that?
As I talked about earlier, a lot of what's been going on is focused on graduation. What everyone really wants is basically what we normally have, a ceremony, and it's the project grad experience. Even if we have to wait until November to get that, most people are willing to wait that long. As for banners or any extra things like that, gift certificates, no one has really broached that subject. It was originally told to us that each banner would be $39, but now I'm hearing that's different. So we're going to need to talk a little bit more about that because there seems to be a big gap in price there. As I talked about, every student will be submitting a 30-second video clip, and that will just be a short, so like saying goodbye until next time, kind of, yeah. And obviously a lot of this is going to change in the coming weeks because it's really hard to contact anyone right now since a lot of students don't have access to the internet or they're struggling to adjust to new schedule or they're taking on more hours at work to support their family. That's basically all I have, but before I close up, I just wanted to add that we owe a great deal of gratitude to all the work that the teachers and staff of Cloverdale have done for adapting so quickly and really trying their best for myself and all my other peers. One person in particular is Jeremy Decker, our superintendent, who has done a great deal for our schools, but will be greatly missed as he is leaving to pursue his career in leadership. And that's all I have for tonight.
Emma, thank you. You know, the video that you're going to be doing, I think is really a good idea. And you could probably, if you could get that video to Councilmember Cruz, she could direct it through the city manager, could possibly have it put up on channel 26, which is our PEG channel that we have with Comcast. Our city council meetings that are being recorded now run every, I think it's every day at 4 o'clock. So you get that to us and we can make sure that gets up on channel 26, okay?
Thank you.
Ashton, did you want to share a few things with us?
Yeah, I will say going along with a graduation and like Emma mentioned with the 30-second clips, we still have other aspects of graduation that students have to prepare for. So like I think it was mentioned in a previous meeting, students still have an aspect where they have to make a website, sort of, and they have to showcase some of their work throughout all 4 years. And obviously, they were supposed to do something like present it to the public, but they can't really do that now with what's going on. But it might be possible to get some of those websites either from the school administration, from kids who are willing and want to volunteer, if you want to get a more complete picture or some students want to show themselves off. And for Jeremy Decker, I want to say you've done an amazing job as the superintendent. I know this really wasn't what you bargained for when you took on this job with all the disasters you've had to deal with compared to I want to say any other superintendent that is head of these schools, but I think you've done a fine job, and I think you'll do fine at Windsor.
Thank you. And I wholeheartedly agree with you about your kind words for Supervisor Decker. Council members, any questions of the student liaisons? Okay, seeing none, why don't we move along to subcommittee reports? And the first is Finance, Administration, and Police. Councilmember Bagby?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, yeah, we don't really have a lot to report. Their next meeting is on the 5th. Were there any items that the other council members had questions about?
Seeing no one raise their hand.
Mayor, if I can, just a suggestion and thought for the subcommittee is there is a number of activities and events that we normally have or start planning for at this time of year. For example, the Friday Night Live concert series, which usually starts at the end of the month and runs through the end of the summer, as well as other events, including the Chamber of Commerce's car show. I would recommend that be a discussion item on the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee, so we can make a determination whether the city may want to consider a policy relative to use of city facilities, including the plaza and parks, for these types of events, which would likely or normally involve a lot of social gatherings. So if Mayor and Councilmember Bagby are in support of that, I think that's would be a key agenda item placed on the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee.
That sounds great.
I think it's very important that we do that. Nobody knows where we're going to be 2-3 months from now. And I surely hate to see these groups planning events and then lo and behold, we can't issue encroachment permits. So
I have a comment.
I think as a city council, we really need to make a decision on that pretty quickly. So
I have a comment I'd like to make about that.
Yes. Councilmember Brigham.
With the Performing Arts Center, we've already canceled and tried to reschedule most of the season. And as you know, we all, we sell at the Performing Arts Center season tickets that cover all of the year. And then we have other events. I was sort of startled at how few people actually wanted refunds when we canceled stuff, but we're going to meet and we're going to talk about how far down the road we want to cancel. And it looks like now to me, and please help me if you guys have got any ideas, that I think we should begin to start thinking about canceling any big events up until probably December. Maybe after that, I don't know. None of us know really, but I want to be able to take back to the Performing Arts Center and say, look, you know, there's not a chance in hell we're going to be able to have large groups in this room until maybe December. So I could use some help on making that decision.
Well, you know, of course, that's up to where we stand with a possible vaccine or.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, what the social gathering complexion looks like then. You know, if it was my call, I'd say let's just cancel them all for the rest of the year. Councilmember Cruz, did you want to jump in here? You look like you wanted to say something. No, okay. Anyone else, council members, on that particular topic? Okay.
Well, so then I can say to the Performing Arts Center board when we meet next Monday that the mayor has stated that we should cancel everything to the end of the year.
No, that's not quite what I'm saying. If it was me and it was
Give
my
me a break,
decision,
Gus.
I would. Let me backpedal here, please.
All right.
You know, if it was me and it was my decision, I would cancel them for the rest of the year.
See, so would I, but I need more help here.
Yeah, I hate to cancel it and then lo and behold, find that we can start doing something in October or September.
Yeah, I know.
what do you think if you want to venture a guess? I mean, it's something I don't think there's an answer to.
Yeah, well, I don't think any of our summer events are going to actually happen. I mean, we can't afford to take that chance.
Yeah. A lot of the speculations that I've read and heard suggest that mass gatherings are some of the last aspects that'll be rolled in for reintroducing people to one another, I guess you could say. And so you would probably be betting against the house, which we all know about, even considering events in the fourth quarter of this year. And it's hard to even hear myself say out loud that we're basically having to write off 2020. But I don't necessarily see information that's coming in a flood that would suggest otherwise.
Well, my suggestion, I think, is going to be to the Performing Arts Center is that we cancel everything up to the Christmas show, which would be a wonderful thing. If somebody comes up the vaccine or something, then we could have Christmas. But
yeah,
I'm feeling like up until then, I'm going to suggest that they cancel everything.
Well, you know, before our meeting, I just received a text from Ron Pavelka, and you know, the chamber is trying to decide what they want to do with their car show. And I told him I would get back to him, that we'd probably be discussing it. And if we discuss it on the 5th of May, hopefully we can make a recommendation to the city council about the encroachment permits for the remainder of the year. But
that's in September, right, Gus?
That's a September, first weekend in September usually is their event. You know, I just don't know. It's a crapshoot. Like Councilmember Turner said, you know, you're betting against the house. And,
I agree. I've lost enough money at casinos.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. Then I guess Public Works.
Mayor, if I may, just with respect to Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee, staff will also be planning to bring forward the initial discussion and conversation around the financial impacts of the COVID-19 emergency. Staff has prepared some preliminary economic forecasts, or budget forecasts, I should say. Is indicated by Finance Director Holmes' report. We're going to work on our specific model that's been developed for the city, but there's also been some preliminary analysis done relative to our major revenue sources that we'd like to bring forward to update the council, at least where we stand, and present some options with the goal of bringing it back to the council at the first meeting in April. So our goal is to that initial discussion conversation with the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee at the first meeting in May, and then bring it back to council. So to me, those would be kind of two major items. I know we've got a long list of agenda items on the Finance, Admin, and Police. My recommendation would be to work with the mayor and Madam Chair on kind of prioritizing those items so we can really focus our time and resources on kind of the key matters at hand, given the emergency that we're currently addressing.
Yeah, and I don't know how the chair feels, but quite frankly, the two that we just discussed, the budget and whether we're going to issue encroachment permits, are probably the most important right now for everyone.
Absolutely.
I think you're right.
Okay. All right. Public Works. Oh, actually, it's planning sustainability. We had our meeting last evening, and basically the conversation revolved around a few things, but the bullet points here are the update to the Sonoma County Transit Route 68. And that's kind of put on hold by, I always want to say Bert, yes.
Brian Albee.
Brian,
right.
Because he's just kind of tied up with other things right now. So I think that's going to come back to us in September, David, was it?
Yeah, I think the main issue is the main impact.
Unmute yourself, David, please.
What?
David,
I had to turn on my microphone.
Please do that.
Okay. The kind of the main issue is the main impact of the current emergency on transit has been the inner city route, where service has been basically on the weekend schedule. So that's where the service has largely been affected, and not so much the inner city route or Route 68. But the interest was in kind of updating the route, in the inner city route, and that's been temporarily just been placed on hold to reflect the again current emergency.
Thank you. And we also talked about the 6 acres water company in South Cloverdale Water Company, and that still seems to be a burr or bee in my bonnet, that whole situation there. But our assistant city manager, Kevin, is plowing through that nicely, and hopefully we'll have something here in writing after our city attorney takes a peek at that.
I have one comment on that.
Unless you wanted to add something, Mary Ann and Kevin.
Well, the only thing I would like to add is that I think we're kind of letting the county off the hook on this, and that disturbs me. It's their property, it's county property, and it's in the middle of an island in the city of Cloverdale. But over the years, multiple times, I have had meetings with James Gore and Dennis Wick, and nothing ever seems to come of it. And I think that it's time for us to just say, look, they're going to shut these water systems down soon, and we're just going to have to be forced to take them in. And by God, it's partly your responsibility. It's county land. So I'm still waiting for my phone call back from James. So I just really feel like we have to get a couple more people at the table.
Thank you, Councilmember Brigham. I agree with you. You know, I keep pounding my fist on the table saying, you know, this has been going on for 20, 25 years, and the water agency has really done nothing. They went out and inspected a few times, and the facility never passed. They were always cited, but they failed to follow through with it. And you know, I want everybody to have clean water to drink. Don't get me wrong.
Agreed.
And if somebody would show up with a checkbook and say, here, get them into the city, fine, you know, but for us to burden an expense of $600,000 to bring the folks down there into the city, yeah, that's a big nut for us to have to crack. So,
and we shouldn't have to. I agree with you 100%. I think that the county has got to get in on this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they will before it's over. Anything else on that topic?
No, just I think the whole thing kind of sucks, you know.
Well, got to deal with it, I guess. Public Works.
We'll deal with it.
Who's chairing that subcommittee?
I am. We haven't had a meeting.
Okay, you're scheduled for the 26th.
Correct.
And how about the City Fire Subcommittee?
That's Jason.
Right. There are no items, and we currently have a meeting scheduled for June the 8th, but I don't know that we've received any discussion points from the fire district at this time.
How about the School City Subcommittee? That was just on the 20th. Councilmember Cruz.
On Monday. We met on Monday. There are pending issues. We tried to establish a communications protocol, but it's still to be determined. Since we just learned last night about the departure of the superintendent, we didn't have a chance to ask about future plans. And not much more. Things are on hold for right now.
Okay, thank you. The Homeless Community Advisory Group, I guess our next meeting, Kevin, is tentatively scheduled for the 2nd of June.
That's right, but we'll have to evaluate if we're going to do that. As you know, that brings a pretty big crowd, so we'll have to determine if that makes sense. We have a little time before that date.
All right. Okay, let's move on to
Mayor, I apologize. If I may, I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive an email communication. This is back on the COVID-19 regarding the microgrids from Cloverdale resident Jeff Bagby. We must oppose a natural gas microgrid power generation unit anywhere in PG&E's territory. Natural gas power generation is a sunken cost in a dead-end technology and costs more than a combination of grid-scale batteries, particularly if combined with wind or solar. A battery system can be used to save money in local delivery every single day, every single hour, unlike an in-reserve or full-time online microgrid generator. Thank you.
Other than tracking current developments of the CARES Act and future federal legislation around the COVID-19 emergency and state processes for disbursement, there's no other reports.
Thank you. City manager, city attorney report.
I'll defer to the city attorney if he has anything to share with us.
So nothing really tonight. The main issues I think that everybody's dealing with right now are COVID-19, and I know David did a great job going through the legislation and going through the main issues that we're all looking at right now. So it's definitely all over the world, and definitely in the region and California. There's a lot of watching of what the legislature is going to do and what the governor is going to do.
How's your family?
Thank you for asking. The family is great. It's the parents having to be teachers, which I applaud teachers. They do a lot, and they're great people.
Just wondering how you were holding up.
Thank you.
Okay, next I guess is
Unmute.
Make sure you unmute, guys.
Next is future agenda items. Anything for the future? Seeing nothing, I think I'm just going to go around the table to see if council members want to share anything else with us before I adjourn the meeting. No one? Staff? Okay. Well, staff, thank you. Mother, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to let everybody know that I am also meeting on a weekly basis with the Sonoma County Latino leaders and James Gore, who is the assigned supervisor on the COVID for the community. And there are many issues that are being discussed. If anybody in the community has any issues that impact the Latino community, they can always send it to David, and I will forward that to the weekly meetings that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, council members, staff? Nothing? Well, staff, thank you all for the hard work you're doing. Irene, especially you with the challenges we have here, telecommuting into the meetings. We'll get it down eventually.
Good job,
So,
Irene.
Thank you. With that being said, meeting's adjourned.